family for over 300 years, the present house replaced a tower house built by Bishop John Leslie in 1664. The castle has many ghosts, and Sir Shane Leslie, the third baronet, was an author and poet who wrote extensively on the supernatural. The austere exterior of the house is contrasted by the magnificent flights of architectural fantasy in the interior. Here the halls, galleries and walls are adorned with ancient weapons, stags' heads and portraits of generations of Leslies, alongside bizarre statues and macabre heirlooms, such as the blood-soaked cloth that received the head of James, Earl of Derwentwater, who was executed in 1715 during the Jacobite Rebellion. I was told by a member of the family that the now derelict billiard room was an area of the house that they had always been afraid of when children, as they had heard footsteps and groans here at night. Interestingly, I saw strange dancing lights in the camera lens when photographing here, which I couldn't explain. I respect the magic of photography and never try to control it. We need to be free to express ourselves in life. Few original works of art are created without stretching or bending the rules. It is known that we have two sensory systems, one conscious and the other unconscious, and that the unconscious processes information faster and more accurately. This system is known as our sixth sense and is tuned into the spiritual world. We have quite deliberately suppressed these powers as they are of little use in our highly mechanized modern-day world, but we all possess remnants of this inherent intellect and can reactivate it if we desire. The long-arched gallery that runs parallel to the cloisters is filled with frescoes of family members and mysterious classical figures that were painted by the first baronet, Sir John Leslie, a talented artist of the pre-Raphaelite school who built the present castle. John Norman Leslie, or Jack as he is affectionately known, the fourth baronet, returned to his childhood home in 1994 after spending 40 years in Rome. An intelligent, sensitive man, he told me that he believed in the supernatural, but had always felt at peace with the spirits that haunt the castle, although he had experienced evil in other houses that he had visited. Once, when a young boy, he'd been staying with his cousins at Breed Place, a badly haunted house in England. And one night, when he was playing on the stairs that led to the attic, he was passed by a tall, pallid figure that he nervously said goodnight to, only to later discover that the attic was an empty room that had apparently been locked for many years.
There is no need to pursue ghosts or to discern unwilling spirits. If they are part of the invisible texture around us, they can find their way to us. If they come to a careful researcher armed with some pre-knowledge, they must take the consequences. The object of this book is to collect instances of ghosts, apparitions, and messages from the other or the twilight world. This is the Red Room, and it was always my mother and father's. They slept in a big bed there from Perugia, the big Italian bed. Well, one night in 1914, they were sleeping there, and my mother woke up and she saw Norman, my father's brother, going through the room in a sort of pale blue light. So she nudged my father and said, "Wake up, Sean, Norman's here." And he woke up, and then Norman looked at her, smiled, and then vanished away that side. Well, he was killed 2 days later at Armentières in Belgium, October 1914. But when she saw him here, he was still alive, and he looked at her and smiled. I must say I feel very uncomfortable in certain houses, in certain rooms, like Leam's Hall in Westmoreland or Breed Place in Sussex. I know there's someone in the room. And even sitting down for dinner, say 6 sitting down for dinner, a butler serving, 7 in the room. But who's the 8th person? There's someone else in this room. How do you know it, you might say? I don't know. I just know there's somebody there. Leam's Hall, our cousin's house, the Baggots, near Kendal in Westmoreland, they lent it to our other cousins, the Crauchetes, for a summer. And the Crauchetes brought up a maid from London. And everyone was told, you mustn't talk about the ghost in front of her. She knows nothing about it at all. Well, she used to draw the curtains in the little library at night. And she said, you know, I can't stand that room at night. I go in and draw the curtains. There's something in it. It's horrid. I feel frightened. Oh, they said, absolute nonsense. Nothing at all. 2 days later, they found her stone dead on the floor of the room with a terrible expression of horror on her face. Once I did see a ghost in a rather unghostly place. The English preparatory school at Lyon-sur-Montreux, when I was aged about 10. Well, I had a little room at the top with a balcony, and it faced onto a modern cemetery, I suppose 100 feet away, where people were buried continually. Well, a very hot June night, I was sitting up in my bed. It was quite light, I suppose about 10:30 in mid-June, and I saw a black figure walking around and around in circles. I thought it was a nun in black who had come to put flowers on a grave or something like that. And I just thought it very odd. It seemed to be just walking around in little circles. Well, then I was fascinated by this. Then I saw something just beside it, a white rabbit. It looked like a big white Angora rabbit nibbling grass or something. And this white rabbit got bigger and bigger and bigger, and a white figure came out of the ground, pushing the soil away like that. And it joined the black figure walking around, and they walked around in little figures of 8, gliding, you might say, shuffling or gliding, not paying the slightest attention to each other, although they were within 10 feet of each other. And I thought, this is extraordinary, there's a ghost. Well, I had a friend called Louis, who slept in the dormitory downstairs. So I went downstairs, I went to Louis's bed, I woke him up, I said, wake up, Louis, come up to my balcony and watch the ghosts of the cemetery. Well, he was too tired, he just sort of groaned, I'm too tired, turned over, wouldn't come up. Well, then I went back, expecting to see them again. They weren't there. And every evening I used to look out at that time, expecting to see them again. I never saw them again. I thought, this is extraordinary, there's a ghost.
I must have photographed over 1,000 reputedly haunted sites over the years, and at only a very few have I felt threatened in the presence of evil. Certainly at the Rollright Stones in England, a circle of prehistoric megaliths known to have been used in witchcraft ceremonies throughout the ages, and where I was hurled to the ground by an unknown force, my camera strap ripped from my neck. Inside, the house is damp, full of broken glass and crumbling plasterwork. Surprisingly, some of the tall mirrors are still intact.